The door opened. No knock, no warning. I'm bored. I looked at him, looked down at my dripping wet naked body, and then looked back at him. I'm in the shower. He looked at me as if registering for the first time where he had located me. Oh, he said, without a trace of embarrassment or understanding. But I'm bored. I understand that. But I'm naked and in the midst of my shower and totally unprepared to be your activity director at the moment. So why don't you take your DS and go sit on my bed until I'm not naked or in the shower? Being unable to shower or even go to the bathroom with any semblance of privacy is nothing new for moms. In fact, it often comes up as a topic for discussion or fodder on Facebook. But we all know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, a time in the not-too-distant future when our children will stop hunting us down at the precise moment we have slipped away for some momentary personal care. Except my child is not a toddler or even a young kid. He is nearly 13, and he has autism. Our son Benjamin was a difficult baby. He was a difficult toddler who grew into a difficult child. Though something nagged at me all the while, Ben's pediatrician met my concerns with, boys develop more slowly. Kids develop at different paces. Or my personal favorite, you're just a nervous first-time mother. Because all of these statements, when pulled out of their context, were true, and because they were coming from the medical professional in whom we put our trust, I allowed my intuitive fears to be brushed aside. I thank God that Ben's kindergarten teacher had the strength to broach the subject with me. You know, my nephew has something called Asperger's, and I see a lot of things in Ben that remind me of my nephew. It was as if the vice surrounding my heart had been unexpectedly and rapidly loosened. Breath I didn't know I had been holding for nearly 6 years rushed out of my lungs quickly, leaving me lightheaded. I have never been one to hide Ben's diagnosis. I have always spoken openly about the difficulties that Asperger's can create for Ben and others like him as they try to navigate a world that is rife with road bumps at every turn. But what I concealed was the pain I felt, the sometimes oppressive nature that an autism diagnosis can foist upon all members of the family, the isolation, the depression. I hid behind my work. I hid behind the sacred tasks I had been called to do when I was ordained as a rabbi. I shielded my son from much of the public aspect that comes with being the child of a congregational rabbi. I shielded my congregation from seeing the sometimes ugly aspects of a complicated and misunderstood disorder. I shielded myself from the risks of being seen by the outside world during some of my most unholy moments. I did a wonderful job. I did a wonderful job at concealing this significant part of my life, so much so that when I announced to my congregation that I was stepping off the pulpit in order to be a full-time parent to Ben and his 2 siblings, many thought that there must have been some other reason. But Ben seemed so normal. I've had such great conversations with Ben. Ben is always so polite when I've seen him, It almost seems like you're making this up. Yes, Ben can seem normal, and he is a phenomenal conversationalist with those over 20. And he's uber polite after many years of social instruction. Unlike many manifestations of autism, people with Asperger's disorder give the appearance of competency, but it is a facade, a mask, if you will, and one that uses a tremendous amount of emotional, mental, and spiritual energy and focus. When Ben walks through that door at the end of the day, that mask comes off. Any illusions of normalcy remain beyond the threshold of our house. I know that people mean well when they compliment me on Ben's manners or remark how normal he seems. And in fact, Ben does have many moments of normalcy throughout the day, but they are inconsistent, and they are moments. They don't last. Most people have absolutely no idea what it is like to live with Asperger's. It is the last thing I think of before I go to sleep. It is the first thing I think of when I wake. We all walk on eggshells, never knowing what is going to make him come unhinged. His clothing might be the culprit, or what I have served for a meal, or a name that someone called him at recess. And my heart skips a beat, and not in that lovey-dovey way, when I see the school's number on my caller ID. So please, don't tell me how normal you think my kid is, because really, you have no idea. And for that, you should be grateful.